Um, and so to the extent to which they were, again, trying to prove that we can do strategy just as well as the business people, that desire to be in those spaces, the desire for that power, right, is where, again, that it functions in the space of oppression, in the sense of that corporate space of power is a space of oppression, right? It's a space of extraction. It's a space of exploitation. And so to the extent that that is where they decided they want to be, right, as a group of, again, like I said, mostly white men who were wanting to join the other white men at the top of the power chain. Um, to that extent, it again, it's oppressive. Maybe that's the way to sort of say it. Because I
versus
don't,
versus racist.
well, I think,
I
racism
mean,
is a
that's
particular
triggering.
form of oppression. I
I
think the
know. Yeah.
oppressions that exist at that level are
Yeah.
beyond those, like it is racism, sexism,
All kinds of things.
homophobia,
Yeah.
it's,
You know
capitalist, there's all these things,
what
right?
I've always told people about this the design world, which is it's hard to, and I've been in it a little longer than you have, and people don't understand how powerful the white people are in the design industry, and how impactful their work is with culture all over the world. And you've written about this yourself. I mean, they are the gatekeepers of everything, in my opinion. Designers, white designers, and white design theory and design concepts, and big D design. They control the doors and the gates to all types of decisions that are made in America and all over the world. From the messaging coming out of the political space to how museums are organized, to what visual brands look like, and who actually gets to work on these projects. I mean, these are very powerful people in the design space, and they're very quiet, and they're very hidden, and they're not people that you know about or that you hear about, but they have a lot of power and they have a lot of money. And it's been very challenging for me in the space to, you know, I have to really fight hard to get through and to get things done and to get money and to get contracts. I'm up against 99.9999% of the time white men who control the checks and the budgets and the money and the decisions, and the women that are in front of them that are signing contracts or whatever it is, or not signing contracts. So um, I feel like there is some kind of an infographic that can be made that shows sort of the family tree, of all of this, to help people really understand how important it is to have design anthropology within any system that is creating anything that communicates to human beings. I mean, it's astonishing. Like when I read the history of the Google logo process, the Google design process, and what they had to do to get through the engineers, it's an incredible story. I mean, it's just I love this conversation, and it gets a little wonky, but I don't care because this is why I have you on my show. Okay, so listen, I want to move on a little bit to your book, because we're actually running out of time. And I did have some other questions to ask you about language and words, because I think you could define things for people that would help people really understand some of the challenges that Black designers and Black people and people of color in general are up against when they're trying to participate in the language of creation. We're trying to participate outside of, entertainment and movie stars and, Beyonce. Like, we're trying to do other ways we're trying to communicate in other ways besides entertainment. And I think, you're doing an incredible job for this. And I have gratitude for you, Dory, because you're doing really hard work. I was reading comments on YouTube on some of the speeches you've given, and there's people out there that they hate this conversation. They're mostly white people. They don't want to hear about this. They don't want to talk about it, and they attack you. And I
Oh,
applaud
that's
you for
interesting because I don't
I
read
applaud you.
any, I don't watch any of, I don't
I'm
read any
glad
of
you
the
no
comments.
seriously don't you should not read comments, because who cares? I mean, really, like, think about the sad lives of these people that have, of all, like I said in the very beginning, there's so many things you can be doing in your life. There's so many points of opportunity for someone to take their time to leave a nasty comment because someone's talking about decolonizing design. That's their problem, not yours. So no, don't look at the comments. But my point is that this is a very difficult, triggering conversation for a lot of people to have, especially in the design space. There's a lot of white men that will never ever want to really talk to you about this because they know that they're wrong, and they've really kept a lot of they've refused to allow progress for a lot of things um, because of design anthropology. I mean, design thinking. They control stuff. Okay. All right. So, decolonizing design, a cultural justice guidebook. First of all, I have to say, when I looked at this book, and I don't know if I have time to read something, but what I did notice right away is there was these beautiful little artworks and illustrations of you, Dory, with different hairstyles. And I was like, of course, every picture is you in some cute thing. And, I should ask you, what do you use on your hair? Like, what's your hair product? I use Pattern. What do you use?
Actually, just castor oil and then like shea butter mixture. And if it's something particular, I might use, I think like a mousse, like
Oh
just
my
to hold the
gosh.
curls. But that's it.
Wow.
Wash and wear.
I'm using like the corporate stuff. I'm using like Tracy Ellis Ross product Pattern. Okay, that's what
Again, I
I have that right
have
now.
that. I tried out the sample of that, but I just find like it's because for me, it's just all about keeping it oil moisturized, right?
Hmm.
So okay, so let me shout out first to Anna Aggie, who's a Nigerian Canadian illustrator who did the illustrations for the book. And the brief to her was to read the book and then pick out the most emotionally charged moment in that chapter and then do an illustration of it. So the illustrations, there's kind of, as you pointed out, like it's all my different
I
hairstyles.
love that so
Because
much.
I constantly was changing my hair and basically she just went through like my Instagram
That's
feed.
what we do, though. That's what we do,
Yeah,
Dory. We're black women with natural hair.
yeah. And then the other aspect of it is there's a lot of reference to cinema because I'm a big movie watcher. So with the exception of the first one is actually just an illustration of just like a photo of me sitting writing the book. Like that was from an Instagram photo. The second one, which I think is the Panopticon, the third, I think, references A Wizard of Oz. So
But don't tell
there's
it all
modern
because
times.
don't tell it all. We want people to go buy your
Yeah.
book.
So I just started saying is that the element of the illustration reflects again, giving a sense of my personality. I chose Anna to do the illustration because she does this comic style, which is very cutesy. But in her work itself, it's like it's very cutesy, and then she's like hitting on some real issues around like sexism or supporting people with disabilities. And so it's one of those things like when I saw her style and the way in which like I use like a persona of pleasantness, right? I talk about like weaponized femininity. Like, how hard my talk is going to be by how dolled up I look because I use soft looks for hard messages.
I love
So
that.
her
I
work
got to
is
use
very
that.
similar to that, where it's like a soft look so that you can't disengage with the hard message that I'm going to give you within that.
I like
And
it. Well, I think she did a beautiful job interpreting all the things that you're describing. And I love that you hired a black artist.
so the whole team is Black and Indigenous.
I love it because
So
I
the
I
cover
love
was
it.
designed by Sadie Redwing, who's a
Hmm.
Lakota Dakota designer.
Nice.
The inside of the book was designed by Polymode, which is Silas Monroe, who is African plus American, and then Brian Johnson, who's indigenous of the Mohegan Nation. So it's a thing where, like, actually, MIT Press allowed me to put together this Black and Indigenous design team because they didn't have one.